morning, everyone. It is the 10th day of June, 2014, and it is our Two for Tuesday. You get me in the morning, you get me at night. This morning it is 63 degrees here in Indianapolis, and a little rainy, which I'm glad it held off through our vacation. As many of you know, my husband and I spent all last week celebrating our wedding anniversary, number 16. Just kind of stuck close to home, slept in our bed every single night, and did some stuff around the Indianapolis area. One of those, which I was quite excited about, which, if you know my husband, allergies just destroy him in the spring. But he sucked it up long enough to go down and visit a permaculture farm in Paoli, Indiana, which is down more towards the Kentucky border, called Brambleberry Farms. And got to go see an actual working farm, along with picking up and bringing home some plants that I've been on the lookout for quite a while now. One of those is comfrey, and after yesterday, it is dutifully planted in my garden out back. But just a heads up, real quick before I get started on that. We've got some cold weather settling in and into the 70s. I know, cold and 70 degrees here in Indy for the next couple days with a little bit of rain. But you guys down in Alabama, Louisiana, and that area, be on the lookout. I know you got some strong storms coming through today. It's through yesterday. Some weird weather, again, settling in. I was talking to a chick that lives up in Colorado who lives up in the Rocky Mountains and saw some tornadoes. So always, we can't predict the weather any more than the meteorologists can. So just keep your eyes to the skies and know what's going on. But stay safe out there because these storms can pop up at any time and can be quite surprising. We've seen some significant hail going on with a lot of damage, and we're talking hail larger than the size of your hand and doing some grave damage just all over the place in odd and weird places that don't normally see that kind of weather. So just, pay attention, know what's going on. But, so back to the farm tour. So went down there. I'm not sure how many acres they have exactly, but they kind of have it set up like an old and a new farm. The established one that's been there for a few years with all of the fruit trees and whatnot. And then they've implemented a lot of new technology into the farm on the opposite side. But one of the coolest things was here in Indiana, they actually had a straw bale house that the couple had built. And you can actually, they have an open place in one of the walls with a plastic cover over it so you can actually see down into the wall and see what it's built like inside. I did post some pictures up on our Facebook page on Saturday, so go check it out. I got caught up, I will admit, I got caught up and got excited and neglected taking as many pictures as I should have because I was too busy paying attention to what was going on around me. But one of the things I brought back was some comfrey. And what is comfrey, you say? It's a awesome little plant that they utilize to plant around their fruit trees. And what it does is the tap roots go way down farther than the roots of the trees do. And it brings up all those awesome nutrients from down in the subsoil layers and brings those back up and distributes those into the ground around where the fruit trees are at. It also cuts back a lot on the weeding around the fruit trees and keeps a lot of pests away. They actually have it in working, and it was great to see. So they dug up a couple clumps for me. We threw them in the back of my truck and brought them home. But some things that you can use comfrey for. Again, it's a valuable addition of bulk to the compost heaps. It's an extremely good micronutrient accumulator, a complete fertilizer in one little plant. The leaves are full of nitrogen, calcium, potassium, iron, and magnesium. So a great plant, a great perennial to have in your garden. It's a great compost activator. If you need to get your compost pile going, just pick some leaves off of it and throw them into your compost pile. You can use it as mulch around your vegetables. You can harvest a growth several times a year from this plant. I mean, it does grow pretty good. You can harvest it from mid-spring, probably all through the summer. But make sure you put the leaves in the sun for a few hours so they wilt, because if not, they will take root again, and you'll have more comfrey than you know what to do with. It does multiply quite fast. You can use it as fertilizer placed directly in trenches before you plant your potatoes, your beans, your peas, that kind of thing. Make sure, again, that you wilt the leaves before you use it. Like I said before, the deep root tap system of this plant makes it ideal for breaking up heavy clay soils. Some of you guys have talked about that in the past, because the roots do get down in there and break up. They also bring up those nutrients that have leached deep into the soil. You can create a nutrient-rich liquid fertilizer with it. Place the comfrey leaves in a small amount of water for a week or more, then dilute it 10-to-1. This liquid feed is excellent for potassium-hungry crops, such as one of my favorite vegetables out there, or fruit, tomatoes. You can go comfrey as a grass barrier. If you chop up pieces of the root and place them in a hollow in your mulch about every 16 inches or so and cover them with compost or some really good soil, over time this will create a thick barrier that even your crabgrass doesn't like to compete with. Comfrey dies down when the winter frost comes, and of course the grass does too, but comfrey will start growing in the spring before your grass actually kicks in. So, and it's a nice looking green plant, kind of almost, kind of like oh, come on, my brain needs to kick in. Anyways, yeah, I'll think about it halfway through the show and let you know what I'm thinking of. There's another plant that looks like it that everybody has, it seems like, this time of the year. Expand your garden beds, divide the roots to create a lot of new plants very quickly. It's a quick multiplier. Use as a ground cover wherever you need it. If it traps nutrients, if you live on a slope, on a hillside, if you plant them at the bottom of your garden, it will grow lush and prevent nutrients escaping your garden by leaching out and bringing those back into your soil. And medicinal purposes, it's also known as knit bone. And word of caution, do not use it on open sores and don't ingest it. But it can be placed over broken bones, boo-boos, black and blue marks, those kind of things, as long as you don't have any broken skin, to make those things heal faster because it's so high in calcium. But awesome plant to have in your garden. The other thing I picked up while I was down there is some sunchokes. If you don't have those, I'm a big potato lover, and anytime you grow potatoes, if you don't store them in a root cellar or something like that, so that way you have tubers to start your next garden with, you always have to pick them up at the garden center or someplace, farm market. So do you always have a steady supply of those? One of the replicators, I'll call it, of potatoes is called sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes. And so I picked up some of those. These things do take over your garden, just so you know, but they grow tall like a sunflower. They usually have a flower at the top when they're in bloom in the summertime that looks like a, cross between a sunflower and a daisy, let's say. Yellow leaves, little orange center to it. They can be used. I know we've talked about in the past about the Three Sister gardening method, where you use the corn stalk with the beans and the tomatoes. Can be used in the same way. You plant the sunchoke, and then the pole beans and the tomatoes. The pole beans go up the tomatoes and attach it to the sunchokes and give it stability. And they do drop nutrients back into the soil. So, but they can be used in all of your recipes. such as anything that can be any kind of potato type dish that you have. So awesome perennials to have. These, you just pull the stalks up, kind of like if you can envision pulling up a sunflower in the fall. At the bottom, you'll have the tubers for the sunchokes. And then you just harvest those like you would a potato. But a couple great perennials to have in your garden that I'm quite excited about. And got those all planted yesterday before it started to rain today, so even better. So I will post some links up on my Facebook page pertaining to both of these. They did have a sale going on for raspberry bushes. Got to buy one, get one free, which was awesome. For all you women out there listening, drying raspberry leaves and using them in a tea is awesome for all of our menses issues that we have. So just a little FYI there. But if you get a chance here in southern Indiana, look them up. They're kind of out. You might need a little directions in order to find them. But Brambleberry Farm, I'm going to post a link for this up in Facebook. So that way everybody can find them if they would like them. But they carry a lot of plants that you won't find in a normal nursery around here that are awesome, great for a permaculture farm. And you can use these in any kind of garden. If you are in town, have an HOA, use them in your landscaping and nobody will know. They'll just think that you have, really tall daisies planted, or hosta. There we go. Hosta. The comfrey kind of looks like hosta in your garden. So instead of placing hosta, which I know we've seen a lot going on in developments in suburbia, just plant comfrey instead. And your HOA probably will not even notice the difference. So link to the farm is up on Facebook. I have another 15 pages probably open that I want to get through. But one thing I wanted to read real fast, I found this, and it was on wakingtimes.com. 16 signs that you're a slave to the matrix. I thought that was a pretty good list. So this came from April 28th, 2014. Number 1, you pay taxes to people you'd like to see locked up in jail. Yeah, let that one sink in for a minute. For those of us that earn a paycheck and taxes are taken out before we even see the money that we've earned, the people that it goes to, we'd like to see locked up in jail. Definitely could agree to that one. Number 2, you go to the doctor, but you're still sick. You haven't checked in and dived into the whole pharmaceutical ripoff that's going on out there and how your doctors are involved in that. You might want to and seek alternative methods, homeopathic methods, instead of just putting a Band-Aid over your boo-boo. Why don't you heal your boo-boo? Your bodies can heal themselves a lot better than you think they can once you cut out all the crap that you put on them. Number 3, you've picked Team Democrat or Team Republican and argue with your friends, family, and coworkers about politics. Wake up, people. Team Democrat, Team Republican are all the same. They just have different clothes on. Number 4, you work hard doing something you hate to earn $5 for. Number 5, you're willing to accrue personal debt to fund the acquisition of a consumer-oriented lifestyle. Credit cards are bad. And you can live without them, believe it or not. I haven't had a credit card. You know what? I think I've only actually had one credit card in my entire life. And I just don't use them. Number 6, you converse with real people about the ongoing happenings of TV shows. It's sad when you talk more about what's going on TV than actual people in your own life. Number 7, you don't have anything to hide from total surveillance. These people drive me up a wall. These people that talk about, I have nothing to hide. It's not a matter of being open about things. It's nobody else's business what you do. Number 8, you think the world would be safer if only government had guns. We'll get into that one here in just a little minute, because I have some stuff that broke in the news here in the last few days that really, red flags. Number 9, you knowingly drink fluorinated water. Dig into it. A lot of information out there about that, about how bad fluoride is to your system. Number 10, you knowingly consume toxic poisons like MSG and aspartame. Lots of information in the news here recently about aspartame especially. But how many people, even with the information out there like about diet soda and things like that, still consume this stuff? And you wonder why you don't get healed when you go to the doctor. Number 11, you depend on the pharmaceutical industrial complex for the management of your own mental health. Think about it, digest it, and then look at what's going on in the news here lately. There's a link between all of these shootings that are going on. Number 12, you haven't yet started. If you actually watch the news, you'll see how much it's all connected together. It's quite interesting, but then you back away from it when you realize how much they're trying to just manipulate you. Number 13, you're more concerned with televised sports or other mindless distractions than you are with the quality of your natural environment. Anybody hear about Fukushima lately? 14, you're skeptical of any area of life that hasn't been proven or validated by modern science. Number 15, you've never questioned the popularized version of ancient history and the origins of our civilization. Just remember, guys, history was written by the people that won, not by the other side, and there's always two sides to every story. 16, you haven't yet realized that you are a spiritual being living a human experience. But I thought it was an interesting list and thought I would share it with you this morning. So, going back into the news, going off of the list, some things that hit that really I thought were disturbing. InZeroHedge.com, across America, police departments are quietly preparing for war. At first blush, the title of this post could be perceived as somewhat hyperbolic, but by those who still have an impression of America's police departments as bastions of safety designed to protect and to serve the population of the land of the free. However, said impression would be promptly washed away upon reading an article in today's New York Times, which, citing Pentagon data, reveals that under the Obama administration, police departments have received tens of thousands of machine guns, nearly 200,000 ammunition magazines, thousands of pieces of camouflage and night vision equipment, and hundreds of silencers, armed cars, and aircraft. Which begs the question, just who is America's police force, and by extension, the Obama administration, which is behind this quiet militarization of local police forces with weapons that would normally be seen only in a war zone, preparing for war against whom? And while we already documented America's conversion to a turnkey totalitarian banana republic, confirmed over a year ago later by Edward Snowden, behold Americans' conversion to a police state. It goes into some statistics on the number of pieces of equipment that have been purchased. 435 other armored vehicles, 44,900 night vision pieces, 533 aircraft, 93,763 machine guns, 180,718 magazines, along with 432 MRAPs. And for those listening, an MRAP is a mine-resistant, ambush-protected armored vehicle. So my question is, why do our local police force, I mean, let's think about it. If you were some, and I'm gonna pretend here for a moment. If I was some guy working in a police force and I could get my hands on an MRAP, wouldn't you get one too? I probably would. Police departments, though, are adding more firepower and military gear than ever. Some, especially in larger cities, have used federal grant money to buy armored cars and other tactical gear, and the free surplus program remains a favorite of many police chiefs who say they would otherwise not afford such equipment. That's what happened here. I talked about it last week in Ohio, a small town, 11,000 people. They were talking about the fact that, why do these people have this? Can they even afford the gas, the upkeep on this? But this past week, like I said, it has really broken loose on the amount of war gear that's been flowing out. The New York Times out of Wisconsin said inside the municipal garage of this small lakefront city, parked next to the hefty orange snowplow, sits an even larger truck. This one painted in desert khaki, weighing 30 tons and built to withstand landmines. The armored combat vehicle is one of the hundreds showing up across the country in police departments, big and small. The 9-foot-tall armored truck was intended for an overseas battlefield. But as President Obama ushers in the end of what he called America's long season of war, the former tools of combat, M16 rifles, grenade launchers, silencers, and more, are ending up in local police departments, often with little public notice. During the Obama administration, according to Pentagon data, police departments have received tens of thousands of machine guns, over nearly 200,000 ammunition magazines, and it goes on, thousands of pieces of camouflage, night vision equipment, silencers, armored cars, and aircraft. The equipment has been added to the armories of police departments that already look and act like military units. Police SWAT teams are now deployed tens of thousands of times each year, increasingly for routine jobs. Masked, heavily armed police officers in Louisiana raided a nightclub in 2006 as part of a liquor inspection. In Florida, in 2010, officers in SWAT gear with guns drawn carried out raids on barbershops that mostly led only to charges of barbering without a license. I think it's a little bit overkill, don't you think? And I think it needs to be brought up and questioned by people. People that are paying attention. Unfortunately, very few people are. And then it goes on to, this one hit closer to home. Indiana sheriff justifies military surplus purchases by saying America has become a war zone. Mind you, take note of the words by this sheriff. America has become a war zone. 8 different law enforcement agencies in Indiana have purchased massive mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, or MRAPs, that were formerly used in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other Middle Eastern countries. Mark, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, reports for the Indy Star. Pulaski County, home to 13,124 people, is one of the counties that has purchased a 5,500-pound 6-wheeled patrol vehicle from military surplus. When asked to justify the purchase of a former military vehicle, Pulaski County Sheriff Michael Gare told the Indy Star, please pay attention to what he says. The United States of America has become a war zone. There's violence in the workplace. There's violence in schools. There's violence in the streets. You are seeing police departments going to a semi-military format because of the threats we have to counteract. If driving a military vehicle is going to protect officers, then that's what I'm going to do. Now, it's been a long-held I guess, dream for people that want to see this country turned around. That one of the things that we've always talked about was, the military and the police force and whose side was who going to be on. And one thing that we've always talked about was, probably the sheriff holds the highest, they're the last word of the law in the country, and they'd be on our side. But I think people need to wake up to the fact that there's a very good chance that isn't going to happen. When we have a sheriff talking about how the United States has become a war zone, I'd like to see him go someplace like Syria right now and actually see what a war zone actually looks like compared to what we have going on here. Now, I'm not saying that we have issues with crime. As somebody that lives in the Indianapolis area, every day we see shootings going on within the city itself. Does that make it bad enough that we have to have MRAPs, night vision, and everything else to combat it? No, I honestly don't think so, especially when part of the problem that we have is the fact that the city is cutting the budgets of the police departments that we already have, and we've had to cut back on the amount of police officers. So what, we're going to keep cutting the police officers and just give them bigger toys to play with that they have no freaking training whatsoever to use? Do you know the nightmare that we're about to unfold upon every small town in the United States by keeping this mentality? So, crime rates have actually been sharply falling across the United States since the mid-1900s, and this is from Business Insider. Law enforcement agencies have increasingly turned to purchasing military surplus in an attempt to protect officers and take advantage of massive bargains. One of the Indiana counties spent only $5,000 for an MRAP, while the government originally purchased the vehicle for a whopping $733,000. The militarization of police is a sweeping trend throughout the country as police departments increasingly try to snatch up what military hardware is available for general purchase. The purchase of used military equipment is substantially cheaper for a police department than the purchase of new equipment designed for police. The purchase of used military equipment is substantially cheaper for a police department than the purchase of new equipment designed for police. The MRAPs are just one example of military hardware that is now winding up in police departments. Departments across the country are receiving M16 rifles, grenade launchers, silencers, night vision equipment, and camouflage. There is fear that this militarization of the police force, holy crap, could have unintended consequences. You think so? And don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing anybody here, and everybody, it'd be great if everybody could stay safe, but, this is just way, way overkill. Heavily armed police SWAT teams are now deploying tens of thousands of times each year for an increasing number of routine jobs, and I think that's the part that comes in. We're not talking about, the kind of shit that goes on overseas. We're talking about just routine stuff. Bar doesn't have a liquor license, so we have to send in the big guns. Are you kidding me? Which goes into, let me see if I can find it here. Well, I don't know if anybody's followed what's been going on with the shooting out in, Vegas, with the shooters from Indiana, tied back to West Lafayette, Indiana. I'm not even sure where that's at, quite honestly. We'll see that unfold here in the next few days, but let's go into, let me see if I can find it here real fast. Comfrey is over with. Get rid of those. Here we go. This hit yesterday. Cop sees dad's firearms license and hunting rifle after spat with the school principal over son's Despicable Me drawing. As many of you guys know, I pulled my child from the public school system this year, past, because of issues that we were having. And quite honestly, we did have a concern with the fact that we are firearms instructors. You know, it was top of our mind, especially considering all the issues that we were having with the school. But into this story, which broke June 9th, Robert Goodwin, who's 41, was engaged in a heated disagreement with the principal of his son's elementary school last week over a picture his son drew in art class. His 10-year-old drew a picture of Gru from the children's movie Despicable Me, depicting the character shooting ping pong balls at his minions. Goodwin told the Boston Herald, school officials reportedly deemed the drawing as sexual in nature. So the Arlington, Massachusetts dad, hint one, Massachusetts, anyways, we'll leave Massachusetts alone. Dad apparently thought an additional visual aid would help. So the school supposedly said that Goodwin became agitated, removed his gun license, oh my goodness, from his wallet and showed it to the principal of Stratton Elementary School, and the principal's name is Michael Hanna. During that discussion, Goodwin said he compared my legally owned license to carry firearms with the picture that my son drew. Goodwin also indicated he had access to firearms at home. Arlington Police Chief Frederick Ryan told the Herald of all of which reportedly left the principal feeling threatened, a charge the father denies. So the principal just feels threatened at this point. The debt said, I did not threaten the principal's life in any way. Police ordered Goodwin to stay away from the campus for the rest of the school year, save for dropping off and picking up his son. According to WBZ News, police also showed up at Goodwin's residence, revoked his firearms license, and removed his hunting rifle, though he hadn't been charged with any crime. Now, I'd like to dig some further into this because this is all based, according to this story, off the fact that the principal felt threatened. After the incident, Arlington Public Schools Superintendent Kathleen Bodie sent a letter to parents that read, this argument certainly went above and beyond the scope of a normal disagreement, and therefore the policies and procedures that Arlington Public Schools have in place were immediately activated to make sure that students, facility, and staff remain safe. I personally would like to know the rest of this story. Goodwin said the school is treating him unfairly and that he's no threat or danger to anyone. I'm sad because I think we have to transfer out of the school. You think so? Noting that he feels badly for his 10-year-old son. He's going to be bummed because he doesn't get to hang out with all of his friends. And it goes on to talk about the principal, police seized the firearms and things like that. And it brings up the fact that the father is some kind of rapper. But my question is, and I have to be concerned about the fact, and we've talked about this in the past, you open your door to do the right thing, and the next thing you know, you're getting accused of all kinds of allegations. I know that it's CPS that has gone into homes after school's been called because a child missed too many days of school. So, of course, CPS gets called, which is Child Protective Services. And they come in, you invite them in because you feel like you've done nothing wrong. And there's a couple cases out there. Well, one in particular that I can remember, the people had a bag of potato chips sitting on their counter. The next thing you know, they're getting, talked to and looked into because they're not feeding their children correctly, based upon what this CPS person observed in your home. So now, because someone feels like they're being threatened, and we've seen the backlash here recently within the gun community, I'm not saying some of these people haven't gone to the extreme. I don't think, when we are permitted to carry a firearm, we have a responsibility there. And I think some people have pushed the limit on that. Is it making a statement by carrying your AR-15 into I don't know, Chipotle restaurant? Are you getting your point across? Say, oh, yes, geez, I have the right to carry this wherever I want to, but now you're freaking out people? Is that the right way to do it? Personally, I don't think so. I think that's just asinine and just bringing more attention to the fact that you're an idiot more than anything. Do you have a right to carry does not mean that you abuse it. But I'm also not a big proponent of open carry either. So that's just my view on it. For people that are advocates of open carry, I'm sure you have a completely different mindset there. So just something to watch out there. Feeling a little uneasy about the whole thing. But I saw that was posted yesterday in RT, these bulletproof blankets that would supposedly protect students in the case of a school shooting. They just look like 4-section red mats with handles on the other side that the kid can throw over top of them. Now they're also being toted for flying glass in case of a tornado and things like that. But I was showing those to my husband last night, and we're both under the impression, are you serious? And you think this is an answer to what's for all the shootings in the schools? Let's just undermine the real problem here, which is, quite honestly, look at the root cause of why these people are shooting up the schools, and see what's in common between all of them. So now we're giving these kids a false sense of security by giving them this supposed bulletproof blanket to throw over top of themselves, which is red and makes them stick out like a sore thumb, on top of everything else, but completely exposes most of them. I mean, really, the only thing it covers is their back, but it's an easy target because these kids are now lying down. One of the things that you do in an active shooting is, yes, you stay low, but you try and get out of the area as quickly as possible. This is going to give, like I said, a false sense of security to these students that they're just going to sit there and wait, quite honestly, until the shooter comes around to shoot them, because you want to put distance or barriers between you and the shooter. These blankets, and I haven't read all the way through it to see what they would protect against, but you have somebody walking in close range with an AR-15, I find it very hard to believe that this blanket, which costs, $1,000 a piece, are going to protect any student against any high caliber that is going on out there. That just was a little startling. I don't know if that's, I can understand it against flying debris from tornadoes and things like that. I just can't see it being used to protect children against an active shooting. And I really, honest to God, hope that this isn't their answer to protecting our children in the schools, because that just, it's nauseating. In other news, if you haven't been watching, we seem to have a plethora of illegal immigrants in the Southwest. Just hundreds and thousands of mostly women and children that are being transported back and forth across the states in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. In this story alone, 2 planes carrying undocumented families apprehended in South Texas arrived in El Paso on Saturday. He said the immigrants would be processed at different locations in the El Paso sector. They're transporting them and busing them from Texas into Arizona, into New Mexico, because they don't know what to do with them. Instead of just taking them back, which isn't that far away. But the scary part of this is that a lot of these people coming across seem to have, and I'm getting my tabs all messed up here. Sorry. There's and I can't find it. But there's some concern with the fact that these people coming across the southern border have some diseases that might be able to be spread across the United States and quite rapidly. Kind of like Ebola. If you haven't heard it in the news lately, it's still out there. It's spreading through West Africa. It has not gone away. I think it's just become old news for people, so they stopped reporting about it. It hasn't gone away. It's actually spreading, and it is multiplying out there. So we've had a case of measles that has hit Ohio, I know, here recently. And the big concern is with all of these immigrants coming into the United States, what are they bringing with them? And how fast is it going to spread? And usually we hear about immigrants coming over. It's usually men trying to work, things like that. But this latest wave is mostly women and children. Well, of course, our bleeding hearts aren't going to do anything because these people have no money for food or lodging or anything like that. So with our taxpayer monies, humanitarian efforts, they are giving them food, they're giving them money to travel to other members of their family throughout the entire United States. If you're not alarmed by this, and I understand the they're human beings too, but really pay attention to this and watch what happens with it, because I'm a little concerned about the fact that why isn't anything being done about it, first of all, when we have a Marine that's locked up in a prison in Mexico that they will not release, but we're expected to do the right thing here and take all of these people in. But the most alarming part is the diseases that are going to be spreading. And if you know anything about any kind of downgrade situation, you have a better chance of dying from dysentery and disease than ever you would have from a gunshot wound. So really pay attention to this and watch the areas that are impacted by it and any reports of disease that are coming out of it. I thought it was interesting in the news, and I read this story to my daughter. She is almost 20 years old now. Geez, and we were at her senior year of high school. It might have been her junior year of high school now. We had to go to one of those you need to send your kid to college seminars at the school. And they walk you through, this is what you need to do in order to succeed in life. And we're sitting there, and they're going through the whole spiel. You know, if you don't get a college education, you can expect to make no more than X amount of money. With, an associate's degree, your life could change, and you could end up making, this amount of money. And, geez, you go into a master's program and blah, 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 and you could expect to make more money than you know what to do with in your frickin' life. So we're sitting there, and I'm just watching her, and she's paying attention to it because she really wanted to go to college. and she picked out an art school in Chicago to go to, which was $67,000 a year to go to an art school. Now, granted, my daughter is a very, very talented artist, and she wants to be a comic book artist. And, 100% support her dreams in this. So she picked out the school that she wanted to go to, which was, of all places, Chicago. And went up. We did the whole tour of the college, and it's exciting, and she just got sucked into the void like no tomorrow. And we're sitting there, and we're listening to this spiel, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Mom," she goes, "did you go to college?" And I said, "Not really." And she goes, "But you make more money than all of these." And I said, "Imagine that." And it really opened her eyes up to the bullshit that she was getting force-fed, which I thought was awesome, because when she did look at the college, you can't, as a parent with a child that really wants to do something, if you tell them no, they're going to really want to do it even more. So, we went through the whole, let's fill out an application, let's go visit the school and stuff like that. And then let her sit down, and she crunched the numbers and realized there's no way in hell she could afford going to college that was $67,000 a year. So she finally opened her eyes up to it, which is great on my end. But I showed her a story that broke yesterday in the news from Google. Let me back up here to the beginning. After years of looking at the data, Google has found that things like college GPAs and transcripts are almost worthless in hiring. Following these revelations, the company is hiring more and more people who never even went to college. In an interview with the New York Times, Google's Senior Vice President for People Operations, Laszlo Bock, revealed he's got a cool name, Laszlo Bock, revealed that the number of degree-less hires has trended upwards as they've stopped asking for transcripts for everybody but the most recent graduates. What's interesting is the proportion of people without any college education at Google has increased over time as well, Bock said. So we have teams where you have 14% of the team made up of people who've never gone to college. Bock's critique of higher education goes beyond debunking the GPA as a hiring metric. He says the academic setting is an artificial place where people are highly trained to succeed only in a specific environment. One of my frustrations when I was in college and grad school is that you knew the professor was looking for a specific answer, Bock says. You could figure that out, but it's much more interesting to solve problems where there isn't an obvious answer. You want people who like figuring out stuff when there's no obvious answer. After 2 or 3 years, performance at college is completely unrelated to performance at Google, because the skills you learn are so different and you change so much, Bock says. Of course, most of Google's hires are still college graduates. After all, college is still the surest way of learning advanced engineering and other stuff that gets you a job at Google. A college degree still provides some guarantee of intelligence and commitment. I almost choked on that one. And at the end of the day, people with a college degree are far more likely highly employed and make more money than those who don't graduate. Oh, I'm sure that was an add-on by Business Insider. Thank you very much. But you get the point. Most of the people that I know, if there is a downgrade situation, your college degree might be able to wipe your ass. And that's about all it's going to be worth. The people that are the welders, that know hands-on skills, those are the guys that are going to come into play during any kind of downgrade situation. If you don't have a trade to offer someone, you're going to be worthless. Your best objective right now is to learn some kind of trade skill. I think it's great, that you have 12 master's degree in English philosophy. That's wonderful. Now you can kind of speak to other human beings out there, even though you're probably full of yourself. But what the hell are you going to do when the power goes out? What kind of skills are going to be needed? And think about it when the grid goes down. On to the next one. Many of you know that I harp all the time about it's the women's responsibility to protect themselves. And your responsibility alone. So, and I did not watch Miss USA pageant on Sunday night. I don't remember the last time was that I actually did watch a Miss USA pageant, but it hit the news and I found it quite interesting. So Miss Nevada, Nia Sanchez, was crowned Miss USA. And during the pageant, Sanchez, who is a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo, was asked a question about sexual assault on college campuses. Sanchez suggested that women get training to learn how to defend themselves. Awesome answer, in my opinion. You're responsible for yourself. You can't manipulate anyone else to do the right thing. It doesn't happen. If we were able to do that, this would be a perfect world, which it is far from being. So your only option is to protect yourself. So of course you get all of, hey, great, self-defense, women, yay, go, Miss Nevada. But on the opposite side of it, you have people that just, it's startling. It's, the answers, I was reading the article about, Twitter and the tweets that were following after her statement. And, Miss Nevada was asked about rape at college and answered that women need to learn to defend themselves. Or men could just not rape. This is this chick's response to this. Really, people out there think, honestly, and this works both ways, don't get me wrong, men are raped too by women or whomever. And so let's just take the sex out of it. To get human beings not to rape, period, is so much going to be so much more easier than for you to take responsibility to protect yourself, right? That makes sense. And yes, I'm being very sarcastic here. Or would it be easier for you to take responsibility and learn how to protect yourself? And it doesn't have to be by firearms. If you're uncomfortable with it, there are a plethora of other ways to protect yourself. Some other chick. And this is from women. These responses are from women, which is even more startling. Miss Nevada described how individuals need to protect themselves from rape instead of teaching others not to rape. Stop blaming the victim. Miss Nevada saying rape can be prevented by women learning self-defense and being confident, and they gave her, unhappy faces. Not happy with Miss Nevada's answer that to stop rape, we should teach women to defend themselves. Why don't we teach men not to rape? And these are answers. These are legitimate answers. Tweets from women out there. Colleen Gibbons. Sick of hearing women need to learn self-defense from sexual violence. We need a culture we don't have to defend ourselves from. And yes, that would be great in a perfect world, but I think we all agree that it just isn't going to happen. Women shouldn't need to learn to protect themselves against rape. Educate and respect yourself as a woman. From Anna Beth West. Elisa Benson. I get the college sexual assault problem can't be solved in 30 seconds, but still icky. Yeah, she did use the word icky to pretend like self-defense is the answer. This is, I don't even know what to say without cussing. Jorge Burrs, what she is doing is promoting the idea of a woman taking control of their own life. Oh my God, heaven forbid that anyone take control of their own life and stop frickin' listening to what everybody else says that you should do, starting with our school system. It's just unbelievable, the mindset of some people out there. Miss Nevada is saying women should learn self-defense to prevent rape, sexual assault. And then in hashtags, you're joking, right? Why don't we just listen to people that say, you know what, if you're getting raped, just pee on yourself. Because that's going to frickin' solve everything, right? Miss Nevada might be gorgeous, but she needs to realize teaching self-defense to women isn't a solution for ending sexual assault. Now, granted, there's a problem with the people that do these kind of acts. Don't get me wrong, and it needs to be worked on. But what the hell are you supposed to do until that happens? We've had sick fuckers on this planet since day one, you know? Hundreds and thousands of years now. Has it been solved? Please, if you're listening, please take responsibility in your life, not just for protecting yourself, but for all the other areas of life that you know, that go on out there. You know, it's no wonder we're in the predicament that we are.